Blog Talk Radio.
Here we go. Focus.
Something wrong?
Sorry, it's just your stance is, here, chin up, elbows out, feet apart, back, slightly arched. Okay, how's that feel?
Great.
Oh, one more thing.
Barley.
Okay.
Magnora, get you one.
Don't let the magic spook you.
Okay.
Elbows.
What?
Elbows up. No, too high. That's too high.
I'm trying to focus here.
Oh, yeah. Focus on the can. Focus.
Barley, forget it.
It works! The can is huge! And the band is huge! And you're...
Welcome, everybody, to a special episode of Cinema Royale. I am Travis Hopson of the Punch Drunk Critics. And we heard Pixar's latest film, Onward, which features the voices of, and you probably recognized them, Chris Pratt and Tom Holland, Marvel buddies, who've come to voice this Pixar's first original fantasy film. It's hard to believe that, they've really done a true fantasy movie before, but Onward is it. It's set in a world full of magic, or at least it used to be, until the people discovered modern technological conveniences, and the magic went away. And Pratt and Holland voiced two brothers, elves, who go off on a magical, dangerous journey to complete a spell that will give them one more day to spend with their deceased father. So it's going to hit you in the feels the way all Pixar movies do. I had the chance, along with my good friend Nell Minow of RogerEve.com, to talk with the Onward head of story, Kelsey Mann. And he talked a lot about what goes scenes of a Pixar movie, and what it was like to help create Pixar's first true original fantasy world. Interesting. Here is that interview, and I hope you enjoy it.
How's things been going so far?
It's going great, man. Yeah, it's been going great.
Are you doing this in other cities too? Just a bunch of
Yeah,
other
I was in
like
Georgia.
give the same presentation, like it's all.
Yeah, you know what? Every head of story, we always are asked to put together a talk. I'm like, what does it like to do the story on that particular film? And so I put this together like around October of last year, I think is when I put together. And then it's great. It's kind of like teaching a class where you have your curriculum, and then you're like, sure, I'll give that talk. Like I've done all of the work for it. Yeah.
Cool.
So, what does it mean to be the head of story?
It means you're...
It's almost like from your description, it was like being the COO of the project.
You're, you're there, you're there to support a lot of people. Mm-hmm. You're there to support the director and the producer in making the best film possible. So you're also, supporting the film. But then you're also supporting your team, and supporting the individuals and what they need and their own growth too, So you're kind of like in between all these islands, and you're trying to make sure that everybody is getting along with one another, because sometimes islands can go to war with one another. I've been on films where, the story team and the writer don't get along, and that's not helpful, And so I always try to work really hard to make sure that everybody has a good collaborative working nature. Mm-hmm. And this film was really great because, all of our writers that we had come on, were fantastic with the team, and they really embraced the team. Because some people, writers, they're sometimes are used to just working by themselves. And then they come up to Pixar, and you're like, here's a room full of story artists who have ideas and thoughts. And there are writers who lean into that and can use the team to their benefit, and there are some people who just can't adjust. But luckily, all the writers we had on this film, and a lot of films I've worked on recently, really love the story team.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that you talk about that because, you know, when I think about a normal live action movie, yeah, it is kind of like that. A writer he wrote it and then he ships it off and somebody makes it, you know, but with animation it's not like that, which is why, you know, when you talk about how there can be there's all these different artists and there can be conflicts, I'm surprised that you're the first head of story to be there from day one all the way to the end. Why is that something that they're just doing now? It seems like something that would be natural, at least to me. It seems like it'd be
to bring on a head of story earlier.
And what's it like that? You said that you've been there since day one, and that's not normally how things work.
Yeah, I think that came from us, that being our second film. You know, I think that's like Dan was like, we worked well together, let's do it again. And you know what happened actually was I was there at day one, but then The Good Dinosaur had a whole reboot, and Peter Sohn was made the director, and then he came actually first to Dan and Corey and said, can we take Kelsey, because I think we need a new head of story to help us finish this film. And they said, yes, but we get to meet with him once a week, and we get him back when you're done.
On loan.
So, so he came to me and said, do you want to do this? And I'm like, yes, as I had worked with Peter Sohn's wife down in L.A., and I always kind of like idolized Peter Sohn, because I looked at his, you know, I remember seeing his drawings in the Finding Nemo art out book, and I thought, that dude can draw. He's such the nicest guy, so I was so excited to work with him. So I kind of balanced both, yeah, you know, I was there at the beginning, but I remember Dan saying, you know, that me getting pulled away was almost a help for him, because he kind of just needed to be on his own a little bit, you know, and look kind of inward. And I realized there's only so much I could do at that time, because really the heart of the film needed to come from him. I couldn't come in and say, how about a movie about frogs? Like, it needed to really come from him, you know what I mean?
Were there a lot of fantasy nerds in the group?
Yeah.
It seemed like everyone got to put in their favorite little fantasy details.
Yeah. I wanted to make sure that we had a great like, we wanted the film to work for everyone, whether you liked fantasy or not, but we also wanted to make sure that it worked for the people who really knew fantasy. So I wanted to make sure that I tried to balance the team out, and to make sure that there are people on the team who don't know much about fantasy and may not even care, right? Because if I can get them to like the movie, that's good, right? But then I also will put people who know their stuff. And so there are two people in particular I brought on. Austin Madison is a story artist, and Louise Smythe. They're both uber fantasy like nerds in kind of different ways, because there's so many. There's games.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
There's movies.
Right.
There's like, you know, cosplay. There's so much stuff, you know.
There's Lord of the Rings. There's Narnia. There's all these different worlds.
There's so much. In fact,
they don't all cross over either.
Right.
Like, I have friends who just play D&D but don't do cosplay.
Yeah.
Don't play any of the other board games.
Yeah.
They're all different.
In fact, I helped gather a group together that we affectionately called the Fellowship, and it was a collection of these people who were on the crew, not just in story, but in all the departments. I want to say there was like 10 of us or something, and it was this group that whenever Dan needed like a question answered that was like a fantasy thing, or I need some idea of what we could do here, this fantasy, he would say, bring it to the Fellowship and see what they can come up with. And so, we use that group a lot.
I was trying to think of whether or not there have been any other Pixar movies that are set in a fantasy realm like this.
No, this is kind of the first one. Yeah.
How did that come about that you guys decided we want to make, you know, our first like fantasy movie? Like, how did that idea come about?
You know where that came from? It was from a story point. Dan thought about his own life and kind of what he's, you know, we want to tell personal stories at Pixar, and it starts with the director and kind of their own experience and what they like struggle with in life, it usually comes from like a really hard question that they may not have an answer to. And so Dad was kind of looking internally about his own experience and what has helped shape him. And he thought about, never meeting his father. And he died when he was 6 months old. And he's got an older brother who's like 3 years older than him, and neither one of them have any memory of their dad. And he thought, boy, what if there was a character that had that same experience, and what if they could spend one day with that person that they lost? He's like, I kind of want that. I would want that for a character, right? You want to create goals that the audience can get behind, and care. And so he liked that idea, and so he thought, well, how can I make that happen? I don't know, maybe a spell? Maybe magic? And so that's literally where the fantasy part came from, was from the story need of wanting to spend one day with somebody who passed away. And so that's honestly where it came from.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Kind of makes that whole, I didn't mean to step on you. I was thinking about that opening scene where you have like the blank board and the one little card, and how intimidating it must be. And you were talking about how it's kind of lonely, and I was like, no, it looks like scary to me.
It does, man. Yeah, it is. It's a weird feeling because there's so much potential, but it's. I feel more fear than anything, especially being at a place like Pixar, when you're like coming out of the heels of so much success. It's intimidating. It's incredibly intimidating, but. I remember Brad Bird saying this, he's like, whenever you feel that way, you just have to, push that all aside and just look down at what you're doing and try to make that as great as you can, and not worry about everything else.
Going back to what you and I discussed earlier, one of the things that I really loved about the movie was sort of the casual diversity of it. They didn't make a thing about it, but it was very, very inclusive. And my favorite character was the mom, because she's not the typical mom. The typical mom is, now be careful.
Yes, totally.
And I'll see you at the end of the movie with brownies. But she's so different, so tell me about her character.
Yeah, that took a while to get. We have multiple screenings, and on each screening, we can't tackle everything. We will pick a focus. Okay, this screening, we really want to earn the brothers' relationship and the emotional ending. Everything else we can kind of put off to the side, or not put as much effort, because we can't. Every single scene, sometimes we'll categorize them with A, B, and C, so we know how much time to spend, because we only have so much time, right? And so, in the editorial bay, they will say, all right, we got 52 hours. Where do you want to spend those hours? And so we'll pick certain scenes to spend more time in. It's the same type of thing where we can't have everything be a priority one.
It's not her story. It's not her story, it's the boy's story.
So we focused on the boys, but we always had mom there and mom involved. But our very first versions, I think I was telling you earlier, mom was trying to stop the boys for the longest time. And Colt was really involved too, and it was kind of the two of them trying to stop the boys. And Colt was also more of a jerk kind of in the beginning, and you're like, why is mom marrying this guy? He's terrible, And it wasn't until we hired Mel Rodriguez to kind of sweeten the character up a little bit, and we just softened him a little bit more. He's trying to do the right thing, but he is trying to stop the boys, but it's in concern of worrying their mother, But yeah, I remember once we started to solidify the boys' storyline, then we could switch our focus and really hit the B story, which was mom. And I remember us realizing that nobody's going to root for mom trying to stop the boys, because I want them to meet their dad. I don't want to have them stopped, even if it is going to be difficult and they might die. I still, as an audience member, I'm like, go for it, Then we came around with the idea of well, maybe they're trying to help the boys, and maybe they have a piece of information that the boys don't know. And initially, we just had the scene of the Manticore in the tavern, and we kind of left her there. And then it wasn't really until we started casting the actors that we got Octavia Spencer and Julia Louis-Dreyfus. And I remember us all thinking, like, I want to put them in a car together. You know, I remember doing a drawing to kind of like try it out of Mom and the Manticore, and Manticore is like so huge in the car. And there was something so appealing about watching these two incredible actresses in the car together, you know. And we really liked the balance between the two boys doing their thing and these two incredible women doing their thing as the B story. We like that kind of balance.
I really want to see a short of those two.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Short of those two. The animation felt different to me. And I don't know if it's because you're doing a different genre, maybe that inspired kind of a different style of animation for you, but talk to me a little bit about that, because it certainly felt different to me when I was watching it.
Yeah, you know, there's I wasn't involved too much in the animation. Like Dan would invite me to all of the animation dailies. My primary focus in there is to make sure that they're getting the story things that we need for it. But the team that storyboarded, that animated that, Rob Thompson and Michael Stalker were like the lead animators on that. And I remember them showing some stuff like early on about inspiration about the type of animation that they wanted to go for. And I can't remember, like, you know what I really remember actually is I remember them showing some great inspiration footage of Dick Van Dyke for Dad, for the pants. That was like fantastic, you know.
That's funny.
And I mean, Dick Van Dyke, I mean, he's so fantastic, and he's much older now, but we even talked about potentially maybe bringing him in. It never worked out, but that would have been like incredible.
Yeah.
He was so amazing in the Mary Poppins.
Oh, I know.
Movie, getting up on the
You could
desk
totally
and
see when
dancing.
during the dancing scene. The dancing scene with the legs.
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking like this.
He's in his 90s, right, when he did that film?
Yeah.
What are some of the advantages and disadvantages of a character who is just bottom half?
Oh, I'll tell you, the disadvantage is knowing where the character should look to talk to them. That got really awkward. We had multiple conversations where we're like, where is Ian going to look when he's saying, like, oh, Dad, I can't wait to meet you. The top half really helped with that.
Yes, exactly.
Even though Ian we had multiple conversations about this, like, Ian knows that the top half isn't Dad, but it felt more natural to look at a face.
Well,
you know?
it's like Tom Hanks talking to Wilson.
Yeah, totally, totally. But yeah, we had a lot of like, you know, there's a lot of over-the-shoulder shots are you know, what you use for two characters talking.
Right.
We had a lot of over-the-butt shots, you know, with Dad. So it got a little awkward every once in a while.
I imagine like finding things for the legs to always be doing. Like you always want, like in animation, you always want somebody to be doing something.
Yeah.
Like finding things for that character to be doing. Like you showed the part of the bridge where he was like sitting by the tree and like cross his legs. I was thinking that would be kind of challenging.
Sometimes we'll be so concerned on the boys that we forget about Dad, and we're like, oh man, Dad is there. What are we doing with Dad? And I remember when when a scene would get approved and would move into production. One of the things we would always ask, there was kind of like I can't remember what we called it, but there is like all the departments could get together and talk about their pitches for the scene to make it better. You know, if they had a new gag or, you know, like sometimes it would be a complexity, like, oh, do you need to see that rope tied? Can we do it off screen? And then we cut and it's already tied. But I remember one of the things we always talked about in every scene is, are we doing enough with Dad? And so that really went into animation's court. And so sometimes they would come up with ideas of what Dad could be doing in the scene to bring him to life.
I think we've got time for one more now, so it's yours.
All right, well, I was going to ask about a cult, because my favorite gag in the movie is when he counts.
Oh, yeah.
I love that so much.
I'm glad you love that. I remember I pitched that to Dan. I'm like, we have to put that in there, you know. There's one line right before it that I still, like, wish we hadn't cut, because he's yelling at the boys.
Yeah.
And we had him say, dang it, no, I'm putting my hoof down. Like, this is over, you know. And we ended up cutting it. I think Dan was trying to tighten the movie up or something. I always like that line, you know. But I'm so happy that like counting is in the movie. And
that was hilarious.
Travis Hathaway animated that. And he did such a good job because he kind of antics like he's gonna count with his hand, and then he does it with his feet.
Right.
He's such a brilliant animator, and he nailed that joke.
It was
he totally nailed
wonderful.
it. Yeah.
All right, that's our interview with Kelsey Mann, the head of story for Pixar's Onward. I hope you enjoyed it. You can hear it again right here on Blog Talk Radio or on Spreaker, or you can go to punchdrunkcritics.com where it will be posted. You can also find my review of Onward there as well. Thank you for listening.